pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all for coming. First order of business is on the minutes. I did talk to Chanel already that they've got me marked as excused, and thank you, Brad, for chairing last meeting. But under the call to order, they've got me down as opening the meeting, and I wasn't here, so we got that corrected. Are there any other changes to the minutes? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. All right. Our first resolution is to appoint an acting director of Veteran Services for Oswego County. And Matthias, you are the guy.
Congratulations.
Oh,
Yes.
you said yes to that?
This is sort of unexpected, but this is going to help us get a lot more things done in the office, and it looks like we're going to be in the process of actually getting the position out to see who comes in the door. But Matthias just mentioned to us that he is going to apply for the job as well, and wish you luck with that. And in the meantime, I'd look for a motion for this resolution.
We discussed. Second.
Does anybody have any questions for Matthias?
Do you know what you're getting into?
I think he does. Go ahead.
I want to make a comment that I've known Matthias for a couple of years here now. He's been up here, he's been on our advisory committee, and he's doing the job over there pretty well. We've had discussions recently, so I'm confident that he's doing a good job for us out there, giving us update period. And I appreciate the stuff he's been doing for us already.
Yeah, and I think when we get all three positions filled over there, things will hopefully kind of get back to a steady pace and back to a new normal, as they say. Any other thoughts or questions? Go ahead.
Yeah, just curious about, do we have a timeline for, has the posting gone out? Do we have a timeline for the application cutoff, interviews?
Well, this particular position is actually sits at the pleasure of the chairman.
Okay.
He hasn't brought anybody forward so far, so he has tentatively agreed to post the position.
Okay.
And we'll go through a typical interview process. So I don't have an actual timeline for that because it's on the chairman.
Gotcha.
Bill, do you have any more to add?
That's exactly right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Kurt?
What kind of experience do you have in the background, like contracts and all that? Do you have any experience in that?
In the field right now, sir, I'm getting trained through the county and through the state. I'm accredited through the American Legion and through New York City as well. So right now I'm also working with other counties to make sure the job is getting done correctly.
Any other questions? All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Congratulations, Matthias, for now. And hopefully it's going to bolster you and the staff there to now you'll have the title to take with you everywhere you walk in the door. Hopefully that'll be help you be stronger in the position. HS2 is a resolution authorizing a budget mod for Office of the Aging for additional unmet needs grant funding. What was the total? $140,000. Look for a motion.
I'll move it.
Second.
Yes, each year we do our plan to the state of how we're going to spend our funds, and when I got the notice of grant award in August for our unmet needs, there was a $140,000 supplement there. So one of our highest unmet needs is in-home care. There's not a lot of aids for in-home care right now. So we're looking to use this funding to provide transportation for Social Adult Day that's involved as well, because that is open and fully staffed. One of the hurdles to get our clients to social adult-based transportation. So part of this will be providing transportation, we'll be putting additional funds into the social adult day program, as well as additional funds in the consumer-directed program as well. So there's no county match for this. This is funding that was part of the governor approved for ISO type services, which is senior home care.
Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. HS3, it's a resolution. Resolution transferring funds to cover the Camp Derby renovations. So the total is $17,500, but we've got the actual budget mod in is $18,000. I'll look for a motion to discuss.
Motion to discuss.
Second.
Brian?
Well, I think when I estimated originally, when I did the budget on this one, Rick got me the committees beforehand. So this is work for the Paco Malone building that needs to be done so that it can become another rental source for the county. The building can be used for numerous different activities and events. It does have a heating source in it. It's great when you first enter the property, so it's smaller than the lodge. It is it would be a great meeting space for gatherings, meetings, warming areas, etc. So it's in need of the work to be done, obviously. So we have the money in our budget this year from not having Camp House run the complete year. So we thought it might be a good opportunity to tackle it now, but wait till another time.
Questions for Brian?
Is that the building off to the left as you come in?
Do you have a timeline for being able to get this out to?
Rick originally told me they could do it this fall. Zach talked to him recently, and he said that maybe it's a springtime project. I personally would like to see it done in the fall if possible, just because the roof is one of the issues, and it has leaked in the past. So Zach is at Zerby today, so he was going to talk to Rick again to see if this could be a fall project.
Any other questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. HS4, it's resolution awarding professional services contract. And, this is going to Catholic Charities in Oswego County. The amount of $2,583 with $5,200 is a one-time software expense. Look for a motion.
Make a motion.
Second.
Stacy?
Well, Holly's here with the RFP, and Nicole Comsey is off today, but I'm pleased to introduce, if you don't know, Nate Barron and Kathy Lodi Rice, both with mental hygiene, and Nate actually serves on the Transportation Advisory Council, and they know a lot more about this. So I don't know, Holly, if you want to.
Well, that was what Nicole told me, that they were coming to answer any questions about the program that you needed. You can answer about the RFP, but not the actual program.
Yeah, any programmatic questions you guys have, we'd be glad to answer. Just base overview, this is a long-standing project. It's been, I believe, 5 years since it went to RFP. Catholic Charities applied for it. They were best fit. They do largely in part to their long-standing successful structure of serving our target population. It is not, there is no county match to it. It is state dollars that come through us to support this. Base level is to get our target population to folks with mental health to and from their appointments and other needs that they have that are directly directed to their mental well-being. It's a door-to-door service, and not only does it serve to make sure these people stay engaged in treatment, but offers a contact point for our folks for other services available in that time being transported by Catholic Charities professionals.
What type of vehicles are they using?
They're using their personal vehicles that are insured through Catholic Charities. That software purchase is actually DTC software purchase. It's purchasing into the greater dispatching software. So kind of working forward with that
Right.
interagency connectivity with DTC.
Cool. Questions?
Super.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. All right. Let's head to department reports, and we've got Office of the Agent up first.
Okay. I just wanted to update you on where our Central Square Congress site opened August 24th, and I reported that previously. Things are going well there. Participation it's a good participation. We have about 24 with the highest number so far that actually were on site. We have about 5 that are still getting grab-and-go meals.
How did they communicate with the patrons? They had a list of people that had
Right,
come before?
The site manager reached out to all of her previous participants
Yep.
and the ones that were coming for grab-and-go, because we had a handful of new people that were just coming for the grab-and-go as well. So she let them all know that it was opening. And it's been on, because OCO is our contractor, so it's been on their site. We also shared that information on our Facebook site, that it was reopened. Not a lot of people participating in transportation so far, but we're hoping that that'll pick up as well. But they are provided 2 days of transportation to the site as well. And one of those days can be used as a shopping day, to stop and get groceries as well. We're now looking to start adding more sites into the mix. The next sites we're looking at are Hannibal and Phoenix. So OCO is getting a plan together right now to add one in at a time. In the next couple of months, next month, those 2 sites will be added in, then we'll be moving on to Parish. There's still some issues at the Fulton Municipal Building, so we don't feel comfortable putting them back into the mix just yet because of the kitchen issues. And then Mexico will be the last one that's added in. But again, the transportation will be starting a week after the site opens so that they can get into the groove with the site and then add the transportation option in the following week to know who's going to want to be participating in that.
Still the same staff in charge of each of them?
Well, OCO has had some turnover, so.
I meant your leaders for each of them. They work through OCO.
Right, OCO manages all the sites, so
Okay.
they're their employees, so they have had some new people that are starting.
Well, I expected that since they were basically closed for a long time.
Yeah.
Okay.
But 2 of the long-standing ones at Central Square and Phoenix site, they're still there.
That's good.
So we're hoping that'll add some more people in to decrease the social isolationism, to get them back out in the community in a safe environment. There's been no issues at all with the Central Square site, so we're confident that it'll continue on with the other sites, or else we wouldn't even be bringing it to the table to say we're going to be opening the other sites up. So trying to get back to normal. Any other questions on the congregate meal site?
Sure.
Yes.
The parish site is located where? Do you know? Sorry.
It is in a church.
Okay.
I
know the church. I was just curious if that's going to continue being there.
Yes, that will
Okay.
continue to be that site. There will be a new manager there, though.
Okay, great.
New managers. So HEAP, we received 240 early outreach applications so far and processed and sent on 195 of those applications to social services. Regular HEAP opened this past Friday, so we're anticipating another influx of applications coming in. As I'm sure you're all realizing that as well at social services. But the new staff that we have, they've been working very well, getting them reviewed and using my workspace and getting them on to social services in a timely manner. So I think it's going really well this year. If you didn't get one of these in the mail, I'll share it with you now. These postcards went out to 51,500 households across the county to bring awareness to COVID vaccinations, how to obtain one, if you're homebound, how to obtain transportation, or just if you have questions, need assistance with scheduling it. So we're hoping this is a project that we started in June, but it just went out on the middle of September. So I guess with a spike in the numbers of cases, it was kind of timely that it went out as a reminder of the services that are available and the phone numbers and the hours of operation. So this was part of a grant that we received for awareness, COVID vaccination awareness for the elderly and disabled populations. So we have many more at the office. I got 3,500 extra, so if anybody wants any, to be placed at town hall or anywhere else, just let me know. We can get them out to those locations. We also gave a supply of them to Arise, the ARC, and the health department has some as well.
Tim?
Yes.
Hi. Sorry. Are we finding that people who are looking to be vaccinated are not being able to? I know that originally there was some concern about that, but at least I have not heard in the last month that there is an issue with people who want to be vaccinated and not being able to be. Is that something you're seeing?
We are not seeing that, no, but this is an initiative from the state for the population that, for whatever reason, they have not been vaccinated, whether it's their choice or they haven't been able to.
But they believe that mailings will help that?
Well, I met with the health department to see how they felt the best way to spend the money. We received $28,000 and this was one of the efforts. So we have more funding to utilize. So we're going to meet back with Jen Chang to see how else he thinks to get to those populations, how to reach them. Whether it's advertising, bus advertising, billboard advertising, whatever the case may be. But that was the first initial effort. And again, like I stated, it started in June. So it's been a while to get here. So in June it was a little more, a little different than it is now, I guess.
Hopefully it'll cause an uptick in the homebound, knowing that they can get someone to come to their house to give them the vaccination.
But we've been doing that though, correct?
Yeah.
My understanding. Okay.
But I mean, whether people know, awesome.
Right, I think that's what it is. And if you're not on social media or, sometimes it's hard to get to those populations. The elderly still read the newspaper, but still, we thought this was a direct mailing to them would be more recognizable, noticeable, not overlooked.
It'll be interesting to see what the response is,
Yes.
I guess.
Right.
Thank you.
We haven't gotten any calls off of this per se, but we have received a lot of phone calls from seniors wanting to get their vaccinations or the booster vaccinations. So we've been assisting in scheduling of that because the boosters do require registration. That's not a walk-in event. The third vaccines are walk-ins, but boosters are not walk-ins. So we've been assisting seniors with getting the registering and scheduling those for them with the clinics. Any other questions? We are working with Holly and purchasing on an RFP for a manager of our age-friendly grant. We had received an $80,000 grant for it was a grant that we went into. We're working the Office for the Aging, Planning, and the Health Department for age-friendly community. It started in February before COVID. COVID hit, all parties have been pulled into other areas, so we haven't been able to work on it. So we put out an RFP to see if Oswego, OCO, another entity could help with the planning of it so that we can utilize that grant, get Oswego County listed as an age community. We also received a grant for intellectual disabilities developmental disabilities awareness grant. So we are working to developing a toolbox to share with nursing homes, hospital discharge staff, to aged caretakers, because everybody's getting older. In the past, aged or families kept their disabled at home. Now they're aging, they're living longer, their aged parents are not able to take care of them as well as they did, or the aged person themselves are aging into aging services. So this disability awareness grant is helping my staff as well to how to relate and how to get the aged developmental or intellectual disabled person into the services that they need. So we'll be reaching out to other entities to do some training, not only for Office for the Aging, but with our contractors as well, and developing a toolbox that can be used. The toolbox will have information on services to connect to, so that discharge planners have that information. They can also be given to family members who they may not have ever had their loved one registered or been diagnosed with any of those disabilities. And now what do they do when they're seeking services that they never had a diagnosis for? That's all that I have right now going on. It is open enrollment too for Medicare. We'll open on the 15th, so we have a handful of days before we can actually do that. So our office is geared up. We are taking appointments in the office. We're trying to encourage phone appointments as much as possible, but people are coming into the office for their appointments as well. Because some people, you can't do it over the phone. It's whether they have hearing problems, hearing issues, or just they need to see it in front of them. So some people just really need to come into the office.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any questions? All right, let's move over to Department of Social Services.
So last week, on the 29th, we had a job fair in our employment training and one-stop career center at the Fulton War Memorial. It was a really good venue, 76 attendees, 12 were hired right on the spot by Budamaki, pending drug and background tests, but Rite Aid warehouse rep gave all the people who completed the application and interviewed an opportunity to start working right with them. They've lost about 100 people since the pandemic began. So if you're not finding things on the shelves of Rite Aid, we now know why. And basically all the employers and schools that attended as reaching out for prospective employees. I had good things to say, good feedback. The only business that didn't really get a handful at least of candidates was for CDLA drivers, commercial drivers. You might have heard that the state has legislation to extend the residential and commercial eviction and foreclosure moratorium till January 15th. So we're just kind of kicking the can down the road a bit. We're at about $500,000 coming in from PRAP, and that's the Emergency Rental Assistance Program funded by COVID-19 money. And
are you getting many calls on that? I mean,
our outreach through OCO is who handles most of those calls. We get calls, our call center takes, and then it gives it to our outreach folks to do a little more hands-on, hand-holding with landlords or constituents that want to apply.
Because the tenants are the ones that still have to apply.
They do. They do. And then on the 22nd, I received notification that as of the 22nd of September, so that very same day, Our staff would be responsible for processing applications for HEAP and what they call regular arrears supplement, RAS, based on funds secured through the American Rescue Plan Act. So this is going to be a huge undertaking. This is not something we were prepared for. We didn't know about it ahead of time and never heard this was happening. But it's a one-time benefit, and the benefit will be available from the 22nd of this September until September 30th of 2022 until the funding is exhausted. But this is for any arrears, and will go up to $10,000 per applicant household. The state sent us a spreadsheet that had 870 households in Oswego County that were referred by National Grid. So then our constituents have now started to get, because they have to have a termination of their service notice, and so now with all this money out there, National Grid's starting to go out there and terminating service so that they'll be eligible. And
When the money gets paid on both of those programs, is it going directly to the landlord and directly to National Grid? Okay. But again, the person who is in the arrears is the one that has to apply for the money.
Correct.
What's happening with people who aren't paying their water and their sewer and their electricity and their rent? Nobody can turn them off. They get the notice, but they're not allowed to turn them off?
With utilities, yes. With rents, they can't. The moratorium has extended.
But I mean, if they turn off the electricity to their apartment or their house that they're renting, how the heck are they going to be able to live there? They won't have no heat.
They do.
Yeah, well, soon. I mean, then having this moratorium end in January 31st in the middle of winter is brilliant.
Brilliant, huh?
Sorry.
Yeah, and then of course, you get a termination of utilities, and we can help, but we, have a very quick turnaround. So
is there money to promote that program, or?
Well, they're giving us more HEAP admin money, although the ABM was not real clear about time. Do we have to spend it all this year, or will it start again for next year? We never get enough HEAP admin money to actually get us through the whole HEAP season.
Right.
That's 100% federal money, so then it ends up being at a local share cost to the rest of the HEAP admin, sharing it with SNAP and TA and all the rest.
Okay. How are you designated people to do that work?
Our workforce. We really have not been successful getting, usually we're able to quickly and easily recruit seasonal heat workers. You may recall those are in our budget for seasonal heat workers, and we've not been successful being able to recruit them. So we have 3 right now.
So you have the funds to get the seasonal help, but nobody wants to apply.
Correct.
Or they set up an interview and don't show.
Or they're offered the job and they don't show up the first day of work.
Yeah.
We've never experienced this before, really and truly. We've not had people who just don't show. But to be fair, we're not hiring off of civil service lists. So I think when you've taken the time and energy to actually go after a public service job, taken the test, paid your $15, and have a little skin in the game, and want to come work in public service, I think that's different than they just have to fill an Indeed and push it out instead of actually, they don't even fill out our application. Like I've gotten some Indeed applicants for various jobs, but they don't tell you what you need to know really. And then you can't get them to actually fill out an app or respond to calls or come in timely for your interviews. It's
Unprecedented times.
it is unprecedented times. Yeah.
Go ahead, I'm sorry to interrupt.
Did you want to?
Yeah, just real quick for my own application, if we are unable to recruit temporary heat workers, does that go on our permanent social welfare examiners and community services workers to then add to their already
Yes.
robust caseloads?
Yes.
Is that sustainable? Like, is that a feasible?
Well, it's going to have to be, I guess.
Right, okay.
Sustainable. Hey, we're doing the best we can to
Yeah.
move things along.
I'm going to ask one more question. In regard to the money that's being released as of September 22nd, people who are receiving benefits at this point in time, do they utilize that funding first so that this way you're not duplicating, because they wouldn't be eligible for the other funding if they're paying out that?
And that's, you make a good point there, Kim, because the other eligible funding is sometimes emergency aid that has a really high local share cost in order to help people not be freezing in their house in the middle of winter, things like that. Whereas this RES money will be all federal money that would be able to be used for those kinds of emergencies. Gidget told me this morning she thinks a lot of it too will be spent, people who are dependent on electricity for a something in their home to keep them alive and keep them healthy, oxygen or different things like that, why they can't have their utilities cut off and are very, very badly in arrears. So we anticipate that probably a lot of this, a lot of folks that are in that situation will apply for this money.
Yeah, there's a block preventing that from happening. We worked with the 9-Mo advocate. We're putting in the correct application to prevent that from turning it off.
Yeah.
So you're right. They're gonna jump on that right away.
Yeah, and they're advocates.
Right.
We'll be lining up to help them.
Right.
Right, Jim?
Yeah, I was also going to tell you, the housing thing has started for us. We get about 4 referrals from Unite Us every day, which we did not anticipate that because of the fact that they moved the actual eviction date. We thought, well, this buys us some time, but we're averaging about 4 a day now coming through that program to us.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me.
And they're always blowing my phone up. What's your latest note? Where are they at?
Yeah.
Well, people that are going to be eligible for these funds have to prove that they lost their job because of COVID, though, don't they, somehow?
Now, that would, you're right about that being for ERAP, for the rental assistance, but not for this RAS. RAS has no assets testing. It's the American Rescue Plan Act versus COVID Money Act, although, and that's kind of COVID, I guess. I don't know how they're doing it with the state level, but they're saying no, it doesn't have to be COVID related, just arrears.
All right.
So does it make a difference in the timing of when the arrears went into play? Does it have to be within that, or is it going to be like, I mean, we have a lot of people on TA.
Yep,
backfilled
and
for many years.
there's no happening during the pandemic or any of these
But there's
arrears
a cap
that
on the total
The
amount.
10,000, yes.
10,000.
I guess 10,000, that could be years.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
My electric bill in my house is like $130 a month.
You pay it.
And then they still want a rate increase after this.
Well, they're going to need to, obviously. I'm sorry, we keep interrupting with all these great questions.
No worries.
But it's informative.
Mhm.
Thanks.
I gotta run, guys, sorry.
Geez, it's only 2:30.
So, so that's RAS. They also extended waivers for face-to-face, although for temporary assistance for the initial application, it's optional for us to either meet with people face-to-face or not. We are choosing to meet with people face-to-face, you know. When they come in to apply for temporary assistance, there's about 4 or 5 screens and pieces to that, you know, whether it's child support, DV exceptions, you know, on and on, drug and alcohol screening. So we are opting to have all apply in person, and then the rest, though, child support, child care, burials, research, Medicaid, and SNAP are all over the phone. In fact, there's some legislation still floating out there that they would adopt this as a permanent regulation, so it's not even like a waiver to a face-to-face. People just won't have to come in to apply anymore. I don't know how that would work. You know, I am opposed to that. And we need to have people come in, and we need to be able to see and meet and greet and engage and move people along with self-sufficiency planning. It's so much harder to engage over the phone. So, and USDA, Food and Nutrition Services, federal, extended an approval of a temporary adjustment to the requirements for recording telephonic signatures for SNAP apps. So we've been having people drop off. They have to fill it out and sign it, and they usually do a drop box or mail it in or drop it off at our office. And now with SNAP, they're looking at, you know, you would just interview over the phone, filling out the application as you go, and then have a telephonic signature. It's very time consuming to do that. Typically when people are coming into the office, they're filling out these long application forms, signing it, and then we can just kind of go through it little by, you know. That's a lot easier and quicker. So what you're hearing is a lot more work for us. Numbers are starting to go up again, and not a full staff capacity in order to handle that work. So one of the things I hear from legislators really throughout my 5 years is we do such a good job at Oswego County. They are busing the homeless up to us, or people are coming in from all over the United States to come to Oswego County as homeless folk. And so we have started compiling our it's just a quick survey done right up at the desk, because it's not what the eligibility app asks for. But we are finding that typically what we look at is about 3 applicants every month that have moved here as homeless. So, you know, that's out of about 50 typically that we are seeing, 50 or more. And it almost always is because they have family here. One moved from North Carolina because they wanted to come back home. One moved here from another state, they wanted to see their kids. One released from a correctional facility and previously lived here. Although we get some people, because if they're arrested and convicted here and they go to state prison, they have to come back here. and then they're homeless here. And then we really try to get them to where they want to be, which is not in Oswego County. It's, where they want to be is wherever they came from before they got arrested here. So, so we are more and more trying to gather that information, and I will compile once we get a whole year's worth, so we have a better sample, if you will, of what's going on there.
Good.
I did follow up, Brad, on getting a fraud report. I just have not had time to kind of look at it myself to put what I'd like in there, but it's slowly we're getting there. I do want to say with foster care, I reported out last month that we were starting to see those numbers come down. Now we're seeing them spike back up again, and it seems like when I see those numbers, I say to you, wow, I've never seen some of the cases like this. Well, I can say that again. I just, these cases are so complex and so horrific. I don't know what's going on out there, but it is nothing like I've seen, in the last 40 years, 10 years. It's just really alarming. But we ended July with 176 kids in care, and we ended August with 190 kids in care. Out of those 190 kids, though, one of the places we're seeing a spike is that institutional residential care. And I talked with you last month about those cross-systems kids, those kids that are really, in my mind, the state needs to pick up through the Office of People with Developmental Disabilities, OPWDD, or OMH, with seriously chronically mentally ill kids. The issue really is nobody wants to own these kids. The state feels like those kids should just stay home, not go to facilities, and somebody, either foster parents or their own bio parents, need to take care of them. But I'm telling you, it's not safe. Just not safe for some of these kids. I was actually telling Nate about the conclusion of a case when the child was at this particular facility. And it's not unusual for kids to have just a bare mattress on the floor because anything in the room could be hazardous to them. And that was the case when the mother was called and that facility said, you're going to need to, there's no reason for this kid to be here anymore. You're going to have to start paying this bill if you want this kid to stay here. So what did mom do? Took the long drive and went and picked the kid out. So, some kids going to get hurt. Kids have already gotten hurt, and I'm taking more and more volunteers on these kids because I just don't want them to get hurt, and the state is just refusing to do anything. I am part of a policy forum this Thursday to dive deep on this issue again with the Casey Foundation paying the bill and kind of leading the way. It's virtual. But until the state wants to invest more money, I'm not sure there is anything other than all of us as commissioners across the state beginning to see these kids come more and more and more into the child welfare system. It used to work for me to push back. It used to work for me. No, we're not taking that kid from Hutchings, sorry. Rich and I have gone down to the court in Onondaga County before being pulled in there to say, no, you must take this kid. I've been called by people saying, we're just dropping them off at DSS. Well, then I'll make sure that unsafe discharge is, people are all over that. But it's not, these are not easy kids. And it's, we're seeing kids with IQs of 45, as low as 45 coming into it. And these are really acting up kids. Very volatile, very violent. Don't ever seem to sleep. And I predict we've got one out of state. I predict another one's going to end up in an out of state placement. So, heads up, folks. It's not just us. It's all over New York. We have 39 kids just in the central New York region right now waiting to go into a state children's psychiatric facility because they have pediatric psychiatry, which the child welfare system doesn't have. As far as COVID, we've had 31 people impacted by COVID, either with themselves or family members in their household positive for COVID since September 1st. So just in this month of September. So we're still trying to rebuild the SS. Pop quiz, am I thinking we have 11 caseworker vacancies, and total in the agency probably about 25 to 30 vacancies. I think our lowest wage workers, the typists, account clerks, those are folks who are having a real hard time recruiting and competing. I mean, even McDonald's is $15 an hour, Dunkin' is over 16. We talk to people and try to lure them in with our benefit package, but they're young. It's about having a little extra in their paycheck right now. So maybe things will be able to move along in our economy. But Marty, was there anything else that I should
Well, I think in addition to our new candidates that would be available to hire, the wage that's available in the community is affecting the staff that we have currently as well, because people are giving sign-on bonuses and higher wages. And I had somebody crying in my office this week during their exit interview because they love the people they work with. They know that they need to make more money for their own life. However, they know just as well that their coworkers that they love are going to have that much more work to do when they're already short-staffed. So feeling really torn about making a good decision for themselves. So I think for those that have opportunities and stay, that's a large part of why they are, is because of the sense of community that we have in our building.
Any questions?
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So let's you're up.
Okay, so at the last meeting we were at, Legislature Valley, you'd asked me about some potential parks and rec or infrastructure projects that potentially we could do. I've done some research as to looking at each facility individually and the need of what's there, as well as a combination of what is an ideal logistic place to put something that seems to be a popular a product out there today. And what I did is I sent to some of you some information in advance to look at. We have 3 projects. One of them was the Ham Surgery project that you guys just voted on. Thank you for that, to bring some of the infrastructure up to date to there to continue the development of what we're doing out there. The other 2 briefly that I will talk about is that at Camp Hollis, you've heard me talk about before, of the placement of the parking lot. Is that ideal for the design of the property? It was done that way forever ago. maybe it made sense back in the 70s or so when they did that, but when you think of the fact of having 100 kids running around daily out there in the parking lot right dead center of the property, including right next to the pool, it doesn't make a lot of sense. So a couple of things that go along with that. A couple months back, you guys approved of the new playground to be put out to Camp Hollis, which from what everybody's been talking about with different things, with finding the right employees and such to go for it, the new playground is not even delivered yet still because it's still, the company's got short demand as well, so they're still developing it. So the fact that Shinman wanted it put in 2021 is probably not going to happen, considering the delivery date is not until next month. So, talking with D&G and things to that matter, it's not really easy to put a playground in November. We're looking at perfect weather. That might not necessarily be the worst thing in the world, because ideally what I would like to see happen is I would like to see that playground, if it was something to be a project in the spring to happen, to go where the actual parking lot is today. Because I think it would be a great centerpiece that you first see when you came into the property. It'd be located right next to the pool, creating green space there and taking a little bit of what was left of the parking lot, potentially moving the basketball courts there, making 4 squares, whatever, so that you have an ideal location of kids being in the center area without traffic going into. We have gone forth with our homework. I didn't make a lot of copies of this, but I'll pass it on if you want to look at it. If you want me to send it to you electronically, I will. I have had some drawings put together of what the parking lot would look like based upon the need of what we're thinking of, based on rentals that we have and the ideal daily participants that have vehicles that are coming on the property. With that being said, the ideal location that we're thinking of is in the woods behind the area where the cabins sit, and there would be a walk trail in, as you would see from that map, so it would still be secluded enough to where traffic would not be coming anywhere near where the kids are. So the next step like that would be is my new very good friend Holly, who we've been just driving each other crazy with the last couple of weeks. We will look at to possibly talk about what is the next steps. When I've talked to Kurt and Jim at Highway, the next steps might be to hire an engineer to potentially look at the design of the property and how that would work. Highway has committed to being involved with the project once we get past through that with tree clearing and any kind of what we're going to put down, whether it's the gravel or whatever it might be. City BOCES would like to be a partner in this as well. They can't be the lead agency, but they certainly could offer their assistance. They cannot do tree removal, but they can do a lot of the other steps, and it would be a good, what we do as a youth bureau would be a good collaboration piece to have our young city students working side by side on a project to go along with it. So that was what Camp Hollis was looking at right now. As I've told many of you, or if you've been there, if you've been out there recently, the new climbing tower is put up. The old playground has been removed. So that playground that I'm assuming was put in before any of us were born is gone. So that's a new piece that has happened out there, as long as with the continued development of trails and different pieces of the projects that we're doing. The third piece to go along with our infrastructure was going to be an Independence Trail. I've been working with Dr. Humphrey here in the city of Oswego, as well as Legislator Mangano, to what different things we can do at Independence Trail and how we can go along with developing that property, yet keeping the seclusion of what it is and keeping the surrounding area happy without turning it into a park that would have heavy travel going through and maybe not making the neighbors as happy as they might be. Again, my friend Holly had to go and climb the shoreline with me one given day, which is fun to go along with, to work with a different grant that we have. But we are looking at potentially putting in, we're getting pricing right now to do a Frisbee golf course. And there are no Frisbee golf courses in Oswego County. To travel to play Frisbee golf, you have to go to Rochester, different areas to go along with. There is one, I take that back, there is a course at Tailwater, but it's a course you have to pay to play. A Frisbee golf course, if you read up on it, I think I sent somebody some information, and again, I could, as we move forward, I could send that to you. It's an outdoor activity, very low maintenance once you put in the course. They can be there for 20 years. In other words, a course in the woods in a place like Independence Trail, part of the game is the overgrowth of what happens in clear. Obviously, keep the trails clear, but aside from that, things that happen, that's part of the challenge from what I've been told, is that when trees grow low, you have to go around these things and they just happen. So that's a piece that we're looking into right now because it would require low maintenance. It would be a great outdoor activity. As Dr. Humphrey says, it's very COVID friendly. You can be out there playing outdoors. You're not around anybody. It's been year round. In the wintertime, use a fluorescent disc as opposed to a different colored one, so you find it in the snow. So it's a piece we're talking about as well to work with Independence Trail along with a little bit to a small picnic area. And as I mentioned before, and I'll talk about in a minute, our ready grants that we're happy to have out there. So those are basically, and with Camp Zerby, like I mentioned before, the Capital Loan building, those are 3 infrastructure proposals I'm looking at. The Zerby one I'd like to see happen in this fall. The other 2 are really spring projects that, nobody's going to do a parking lot right now at Camp Hollis, and the golf course, if that was to happen, would happen in the spring too. So I do have some options. I was talking to Rita a little bit about that I do have some funding left in my budget from Camp Hollis not operating this year to look at different options. And I really just wanted to put that out there at today's meeting so that if anybody had questions, they could get them to me or I could get further information to you. And potentially at next month's meeting, potentially bring some more forward as to if we were going to get different things to go ahead with. Really in the infancy stage right now. I got a phone call about a week ago about another potential grant being given to us. It's in the early stages. I have not seen anything in writing, so I'm not going beyond that as to whether we receive that funding or not yet, but if we were to receive that funding, that would pay for one of these as well going forward. So those are just a couple options. We're continuing to develop the property. We're looking at the needs. Again, if you went and looked at like the Frisbee golf situation, sometimes like Frisbee golf, and that's exactly what I thought first, but as I Googled it, it's like one of the most fastest popular sports that are growing today. It's one of the things that, because people can play along, there's no cost to it, and it attracts people to get outside and do things and such to that. So these are different opportunities we're looking at as we move forward, so I at least wanted to give you that as an opportunity. There's 3 projects that I'm looking at right now for Parks and Rec.
Are you going to talk to Soil and Water about the potential value of any trees that are in that lot?
We could do that, but for what us to do for this course would require no removal of any trees.
No, I mean for the parking lot.
I could do that. Joe has been out there as we've talked about as well. Joe,
is it marked off? I mean, it's a pretty big area. And it's pretty densely wooded, isn't it?
In areas it is. The spot where the parking lot is looking to go is, if you're familiar with Camp House, it's right here where there's a road that travels that's an adjoining property to people who have camps into the back. So some of it's been cleared already. But again, that would be what the next step might be if we were to hire an engineer or so to do a study to find out, does this make the most sense if you're to put a parking lot right here? And if so, what would be the pros and cons and the cost to do so? It just would make more sense that if you're out there in the summertime in a busy day, aside from the vehicles that are going in there, you're having continuous, as kids are going back and forth, you have deliveries and things to that matter, and we'd like to try to do away with that to the best we could if possible. Any questions on that piece of it? I don't want to take up too much of your time on that, other than we have a whole list of information we're working with on all 3 projects. Okay. So next I put in about the hemlock woolly caterpillar, and there is a write-up I think you guys all have that was included in your packets. To summarize, the spraying, the treatment for the insect is a 2-phase project. The first phase is going to be happening really soon. The scheduled target was late September to early October, so obviously that's right where we are. The reason why it's 2 phases is that Independence Trail with wetlands and such, there are proper permitting and things that soil and water needs to do. Trees have all been marked on the property. And I've had contact with soil and water a few times. One of the times when I was out walking the property with Dr. Humphrey, I had communication with soil and water who were out that day doing a final check on where things are going to be. So been looking to go forward and moving to get that under control before it spreads and makes it more difficult for us to deal with. Anybody have any questions on that?
Yeah, but you're saying it's not going to happen until spring because of the application process.
No, two phases. There's a phase that's going to happen now, and they're going to do some now in the second half of the spring. They can't do all of it now because some of the trees are in wetland areas that they need permitting for, but they're not all. And lastly, this was my updates. A couple things I just wanted to mention to you guys as we went forward. Let's see. As I mentioned before, with Parks and Recreation, we do have the old playground that's been taken out. Our pool is closed for the season. And our final camper numbers for the summer was 420, which comes out to being around 60 a week, which is maxing out on what we agreed to with COVID. We are pretty proud that, again, for the second year of running Camp Policy, we had 0 COVID cases reported at camp. Competitive side of me says that we're the only camp in the area that experienced that. All the other ones had COVID and shut down for periods of the summer, but we were able to get through it. Camp Zerby, we have continued to work with the development of different portions of the property. We continue to clear for the trails, to develop with the trails. We will be taking the docks out of the water very soon as we look to get up for the winter season. We do have, and I will get a report to you, Phil, we do have 2 ready grants with Parks and Rec right now. And Holly, you can correct me if I'm wrong. We have a timeline that is been put together with purchasing. I believe the applications are due November 1st. And from there, we have the detailed structure put in place, how we will proceed with that, with the hopes that we can award a contract at the first legislature meeting of the new year to be able to award the contract. Holly and I are learning an awful lot about dirt and things like that over the time periods, because the questions that they're sending the 2 of us, what kind of soil do you have on the property and things to that matter. I really wasn't aware there's numerous kinds of soil and such on the property, but we're learning with that, and we have been moving forward working with the Army Corps of Engineers, READY, and multiple agencies. We have bi-weekly calls with the state to keep focused on where we're at. I think Rich is in here. Rich knows that we got off to a little bit of a late start aside from COVID. We had a deal with a Title E property challenge at Hollis, and then Independence failed too. We've had some additional steps we've had to take with how we receive the property and the control that site still has on things. So moving forward on both projects, but I just wanted to give you an update now. Phil, I'll get you an update writing as to where we are, including the timeline for moving forward with that. With schools being back open, my staff has been very busy being back in schools, knock on wood. They are in the doors. I have 2 staff in the Oswego School District working in the middle school. Our little free libraries, which have been very busy through the whole COVID process, between working with the Hopefulville Little Free Libraries and the Cali Park Imagination Libraries. We've been able to provide reading opportunities to our young people starting at birth all the way up through high school. Our new AmeriCorps program year will kick off year 24 on November 1st. That's what I have for you guys. I have a bunch of flyers I'll hand out here for you as well as to different things that are happening. Things such as our trunk or treat, which will be happening at the Speedway on October 30th. We're expecting a large crowd like last year. As of right now, we are still a walkthrough. If you remember last year, it was a drive-through. We are a walkthrough this year, and we're expecting a large crowd for that. Different things we focused on through COVID and moving forward, doing different projects that kids can do, families can do together, and not have whatever's happening in the world impact whether the event happens or not. So things like scarecrow contests or things like that are things they can do right at their own home or wherever they may want to. Some they do different seasonal things. We have one of those coming up. We are partnering this year through the city side with Tunes for Tots, and that is a program where there will be, through music, different donations collected and money collected through the city of Oswego and the Police Benevolent Association to provide a good holiday season for our young people. Sorry about that. And then you'll see, as we keep moving right along, right once you get through there, then they'll have a Christmas tree decorating contest that can be donated inside or outside. So those are some different things kids can work on. One of our programs, our Youth Advisory Council, which is a group of middle school and high school students who meet once a month to talk about things that impact our young people within Oswego County and to give feedback. I ran that program for numerous years. It's a great opportunity to get information from our young people as to how it impacts them. So for example, when we had agencies apply for funding to the Youth Bureau, I always used to go to my Youth Advisory Council and say, what do you know about this program? You know, they say they're in your high school, have you ever heard of them? And getting valuable input as to how they come about it, and if so, being able to get that back to the provider, letting them know, are they reaching their target audience, or who are they reaching, talking to teachers and such to that matter. Our Youth Advisory Council is this year it's a in-person as well as a virtual meeting. There are different cases that go along. I'll pass this out if anybody knows of anybody of interest in joining the council. They've only missed maybe one meeting since the start of the new school year. It's a great opportunity for our young people to have their voice heard, and it's also a great opportunity for people, like the DSS or whatever, who wants to get in front of this group of kids to, get them to go back to their schools and help out, or they work with like Sarah and such at East and U4 in different areas to get the word out, get the work done for our county. So those are just some of the things we have right now, and I got a whole bunch of stuff spread out that I'm forgetting, but for time's sake, I'll answer any questions or get anything to you that you'd like to have happen.
Okay, thanks. Matthias, just to remind you that we rotate the order, so you're last this time, but you can be first next time. Go ahead.
So I just want to say thank you for the opportunity. Also with our office right now, the open burn for last week was recently closed, but the VA has given it a thumbs up. It's a green light now. So with that being said, a lot of previous veterans have applied for this compensation benefit essentially, and that's going to do, with that increase, it's also going to be a backlog on the VA side as well. The VA has already saw that coming. So in our office right now, I'm the only one currently working on all these cases right now. For right now, a lot of the cases are getting done. It's just a matter of the decision is on the VA side. That's nothing to do with our office. So it's just, we're waiting for the VA to hurry along, but essentially with the lack of employment, it's just small numbers right now, so it's going to be a bit of a waiting game.
What's that? So, anybody have any questions for anybody? All right, look for the appropriate motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.